आज मैं आपको मैट्रिक्स के बारे में बताऊंगी। सबसे पहले तो हम मैट्रिक्स की डेफिनेशन के बारे में बात करेंगे। मैट्रिक्स बेसिकली अगर आपको आज डिफाइन मैट्रिक्स तो आपने ये सारी डेफिनेशन लिखनी है, ठीक है। इसको आप चाहे थोड़ा सा अपने वर्ड्स में भी कर सकते हैं, बट ट्राई करें कि इसको समझ के फिर अपने वर्ड्स में इसको लिखें। Matrix basically is a rectangular array or a formation of real numbers. Real numbers such as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. They will be negative numbers -1, -2, -3. Such as written them like that in rows and columns like that. And then close them in a square brackets. That is called a matrix. Such as I have closed them in the square brackets. No, 1, 2, 3, 0, 4, 5, these are the elements of a matrix. So elements of a matrix, these are the members of the matrix, and the members of the matrix, their name is element of a matrix. तो मैट्रिक्स की ज़ुबान में हम उसको एलिमेंट ऑफ अ मैट्रिक्स कहेंगे, ठीक है, जो उसके मेंबर होते हैं। क्लियर होगी बात? नो, मैट्रिक्स इज़ अ सिंगुलर टर्म, और अगर इसको प्लूरल में लिखना है देन वी विल से इट एज matrices. And matrices, they are always represented by capital letters. आपने उसको कैपिटल लेटर्स में शो करना है। मैट्रिक्स का कोई नेम होगा, हर चीज़ का कोई ना कोई नेम होता है, तो मैट्रिक्स का जो नेम है उसको रिप्रेजेंट करना हो तो आप याद रखें उसको कैपिटल लेटर से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, ठीक है। ये इंपॉर्टेंट बात है। दूसरी बात मैंने आपको ये बताई कि दिस इज़ अ रेक्टेंगुलर अरे की फॉर्म में है, उसको इस तरह से अरेंज करना है और उसको स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट्स के अंदर इनक्लोज करना है, बंद करना है, और इसकी अरेंजमेंट ऐसे करनी है कि ये आपके पास कॉलम्स बन रहे हैं, नज़र आ रहे हैं, और इस तरह करके रोज बनती नज़र आ रही हैं, ठीक है। क्लियर होगी बात? अब दोबारा डेफिनेशन को रिपीट करते हैं। अ रेक्टेंगुलर अरे और अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ रियल नंबर्स सच एज, रियल नंबर्स को भी लिख लें 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3 लिख लें। सच एज रिटन दैम लाइक दैट and then close them in square brackets. This is called matrix such as like that. No, all the members of the matrix, they are called the elements of the matrix, right? And matrix is a plural thing. The matrix is a singular term and its plural is matrices. स्पेलिंग देख के उसके चेंज हो जाएंगे। दे आर ऑलवेज रिप्रेजेंटेड बाय कैपिटल लेटर्स, और जो कैपिटल लेटर्स मैंने आपको बता दिया है, इसको ABCD की फॉर्म में आपने हमेशा शो करना है। नेक्स्ट हम अब करते हैं, ये तो हमने कर लिया कि इसको रिप्रेजेंट कैसे करते हैं और इसकी डेफिनेशन कैसे होती है। अब मैं आपको बताती हूँ कि मैट्रिक्स को इसको रीड कैसे करते हैं। फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैव दिस मैट्रिक्स वॉट एवर इट इज़ 6, 7, 8, right? No, these things you can see the when जब आप न्यूज़पेपर को देखते हैं तो न्यूज़पेपर में आपने देखा होता है कॉलम इस तरह रिप्रेजेंट होते हैं, ठीक है। तो वहाँ से आपने याद रखना है कि ये कॉलम्स हैं। क्लियर होगी बात? मैं यहाँ पर आपको लिख देती हूँ। Whenever you read the newspaper, on newspaper there are columns representing columns in a vertical way. So these three are called columns of a matrix. Whatever matrix we have, right? And I will show मैं next आपको बना के बताती हूँ ताकि आपको easily पता चले कि कॉलम क्या होते हैं और रोज क्या होती हैं। क्लियर? और जो आप लोग जब असेंबली में खड़े होते हैं, whenever you are assembled in assembly, तो you make the rows. A rows are like that. ऐसे रोज बनती है ना आपकी असेंबली में, तो ये आपके पास रोज होती हैं। दीज आर कॉल्ड रोज ऑफ, ये चीज़ आपको याद रखनी है। वर्टिकल लाइंस आर कॉल्ड कॉलम्स ऑफ अ मैट्रिक्स, and horizontal lines, these are called rows of a matrix. So in this matrix A, number of rows are 2 and number of columns are 3. This is called order of a matrix. क्या कहलाता है ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ऑर्डर ऑफ मैट्रिक्स. ऑर्डर ऑफ मैट्रिक्स में हमेशा नंबर ऑफ रोज पहले आएंगी और ये क्रॉस का साइन आएगा और फिर आएंगी नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स. ये बात आपको पता होनी चाहिए. ठीक है, एक न्यू टर्म है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू शुड नो अबाउट what are the columns of a matrix and what are the rows of a matrix, right? Which are the vertical lines, these are called column of a matrix. In this case we have 1 2 3 columns, and the rows, what are the rows of a matrix? The horizontal lines, these are called rows of a matrix. And in this example I have 2 rows, right, like that. Now if anybody asks you what is the order of this matrix, so you have to know about the definition about the order of a matrix. You have to write number of rows first and then number of columns. It will give you order of a matrix. क्लियर होगी बात. नंबर ऑफ रोज पहले आपने मेंशन करना है, फिर नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स मेंशन करना है, देन इट विल गिव यू order of a matrix. We have to know about the order of the matrix. Order of a matrix is very important. If we know about the order of the matrix, it will help us in addition and multiplication and subtraction of a matrix, right? So this order of a matrix is very, very important. So keep in mind what is the order of a matrix. First of all, we will write number of rows and then number of columns. This will be order of a matrix. Right, this is the important thing which I want to mention here about matrix. After that I will tell you about different kinds of a matrix, right? First of all you will read about a row matrix. So what is a row matrix? Row matrix क्या होता है? A matrix in which we have only one row, that matrix is called row matrix. Have only one row, like that. For example, this is a row matrix because it has only one row. This can also be a row matrix because it has only one row. This will also be a row matrix because it has only one row. So row matrix is a matrix in which we have only one row. I have given you the example. This is the order of 1 by 1 because we have only one number of row and we have only one number of column here. So I will write the order of the matrix 1 by 1. And in this case we have number of row is 1 and the number of columns is 2. So its order will be 1 by 2. And in this case again number of rows is 1 and the number of columns is 3. So its order will be 1 by 3. Do you understand? This matrix is called row matrix. Number second, we will read about column matrix. In column matrix we have only one column, so we will say it have one column. Okay, I will give you example like that. These are all column matrix in which we have only one column. So in column matrix we have only one column And what examples I have given here, I will write the order of that matrix. We have one row, one column, one by one. We have two rows and one column, two by one. We have three rows and one column, three by one. So this is the order of the matrix, right? So this is two kinds we have discussed. One is row matrix and the other one is column matrix. Number third is a rectangular matrix. In rectangular matrix, a matrix in which number of rows is not equal to number of columns. It is called a rectangular matrix. Number of rows is not equal to number of columns. This is the example of rectangular matrix. And in a rectangular matrix, I will give you different examples. For example, A is a matrix in which we have no, you can check here, number of rows are 3 and number of columns are 2. So number of rows is not equal to number of columns. So this is the example of rectangular matrix. Similarly, you can give another example. A, B, C, D, E, F small letters can also be the elements of a matrix. Always remember. But the representation of a matrix should always be in capital letters. You can never ever represent a matrix by small alphabets like small a, small b, or whatever. So in this case, you will check we have number of rows are 2 and number of columns are 1, 2, 3. So number of rows is not equal to number of columns. So this is the example of rectangular matrix. I will give you another example. You can understand like that. This is also an example of rectangular matrix. In this matrix, you can see that number of rows are 3 and number of columns is 1. This is another example of a rectangular matrix. These are three kinds we have discussed up till now. Next is we will discuss about square matrix. So in square matrix, always remember number of rows is always equal to number of columns, right? If number of rows is equal to number of columns, then this matrix is a square matrix. I will show you the example. The example will be like that. You will represent this by A. Now you can check here, we have number of rows are 2 and number of columns are 2. So number of rows are equal to number of columns. So this is the example of square matrix. And one example I will take like that. In this case, you will check number of rows are 3 and number of columns are also 3. So this is also an example of a square matrix. Number of rows are equal to number of columns. And in this matrix, we have only one element. And in this one element, we have number of rows 1, number of columns 1. They are equal. So this is also an example of square matrix, right? So easy. And this is our fourth kind, and no, fifth. It is called null or zero matrix. A matrix in which all the entities of a matrix are 0. This is called null matrix or zero matrix. You can take different example of order 3 by 3, whatever order you will take, right? This is an example of a null or zero vector in which all the elements of matrix is 0, then it is called null or zero matrix, right? So these are the basic kinds of matrix. You have to remember them, and then in next video I will discuss other operations and other properties of matrix.